Hello again, this is Derek Rougeau with Rougeau Knives, and I thought I'd do a video on testing some materials. So what I have here is some sample steel of 6150, not to be confused with 5160. 5160, when you heat treat it, you can get it to a hardness above 60, but 6150, you can't get it any harder than 56, 57. This piece here, I had tempered it down to 53 to 54, and that's kind of the target hardness I'm considering for my new tomahawks and hatchets. This is just a sample piece of steel that I ground to a basic shape that I can use for chopping and testing to see how it performs, and then I'll bend it. On one side is the gun coat, and then on the other side is the moly resin. So once again, we'll see how this holds up under some torture tests. I also have this hatchet here that I had bought from at Home Depot, 35 bucks I believe. I don't know what it's made of, but the hardness is 44, between 44 and 45. So I kind of wanted to use something to gauge how well these two perform as far as edge retention. You know, how well the edge holds up against extreme use. I'll be cutting some wood, then I'll be cutting through a metal can, like a 5-gallon drum, and then also a cinder block. I'll be chopping through a cinder block, and then I'll be doing some bend tests to see how everything performs. I'm not going to videotape me doing all that. I don't want to bore everybody with this, so I'll just give you the results at the end. Okay, we're back. So I had tested these two pieces on this dried up piece of root from a dead tree, and it's pretty hard and pretty resilient. The hatchet bounced back quite a bit, but I was able to chop through it, of course. And so I chopped through this piece with this 3 times, and same with this 3 times. The edge of the 6150 ended up holding up really well. It didn't dull, and the finish also held up on both of these for the moly resin finish and the gun coat finish. They both held up really well. Didn't do any scratches or any major scuffing. No chipping or bending of the edge, so the edge on this stayed nice and sharp. The hatchet, it didn't cut as well. For some reason, I think maybe the angle of this grind has something to do with it. It's maybe a little too fat, so it's not digging in as deep. But it did dull the cutting edge. You were able to look down the edge, and I was able to see a nice gleam of, you know, where it's starting to flatten out. So then I tested it on a drum. So here it is here. The hatchet, or the 6150, ended up cutting through this pretty easily, and then the hatchet that I got from Home Depot had a harder time cutting through the steel. As you can see, it indented the whole side of the can. For this side, the indentation was much less because it was penetrating and cutting. I also smacked the end of this folded steel here, 2 with the hatchet and then 2 with the 6150, and you know, they both cut about as equal. The 6150, when cutting the drum, held up really well. There was little shavings of metal that it had shaved off and were stuck to the blade, and I peeled it off. I thought maybe it had really damaged the blade, but it didn't. So it held up really well. You're starting to see some wear, so it was starting to dull just a bit. This one here, it was dulling more, and it was starting to begin to create indentations here and there. When I hit the edge where the steel was folded, so it's really tough, of the can, this had dented quite a bit. But not too bad. You know, overall I'm impressed. It held up pretty well. but it did bend. And then same with this, it bent a little bit, but not as much. But that's to be expected when you're coming down on a hard material like that. I mean, any hawk will do that. And then the next piece is I chopped through the cinder block. It only got this far, so I was coming in like this. Let's see if I can get this better on camera. Alright, so anyways, I was coming in like this, and then it got to about this far, and then this piece split. And the same thing happened on the other side when I was using the hatchet. As far as what it did to the edge, of course, you know, it's a very, you know, a cinder block is very abrasive, so it's really going to chew it up. But how much is it going to chew it up? It did chip and bend the edges a little bit on the 6150. You can feel it when you drag your hand over it. As far as its sharpness, it lost most of it, but it still would be able to cut and chop. The hatchet, same thing, you know, but just a little bit more wear on this edge than with the 6150, and that's probably because this is softer. Like I said, I don't know what kind of steel this is, but overall, 6150 at this hardness, I think this is a good target for my hawks. Now the next question is, well, what about bending it? Is it going to break? Is it going to bend? Will it spring back? So let's take a look at that and see what happens. Oh, and as far as the finish, you know, when I was chopping on the cinder blocks here, see, try to get some scratches. See, that dug into the moly resin pretty well. And then the gun coat, it dug in, but it seems to be, it didn't quite, yeah, it's holding up a little better. I mean, this isn't a very scientific test, but it just gives me an idea of how well these products work. Yeah, they're pretty equal. But I like the gun coat finish better. Anyways, bend test. Let's check it out. Okay, let's see if I can even bend this. This is 5/16 inch thick. Oh, Jesus. Oh. Wow. Alright, I'll try again. It's flexing and it's bending back. That's good. Let me go a little higher, see if I can bend the tip of it. Doesn't help that my stand keeps moving. It's not mounted. Oh. Well, have to look on the camera to see how far I was able to bend it, but it's got a tough spring to it, that's for sure. There's no way I can bend that. Alright. Well, try breaking it. Well, still straight, didn't break. So I don't know. 6150. See, it's a pretty good steel for what I want to use it for. Okay, final test. I have it set up in this piece, the sample piece of 6150 set up in this 20-ton press. So we're gonna put some pressure on it and see how much we can get a flux out of it. Well, we're able to bend it now. So, what is that? About close to a 45-degree bend. And it bent back. It still got a bend in it though. But that was a pretty extreme bend. So you can see it's still got the bend in it a little bit. But how in the hell is someone going to bend that by prying? I mean, I couldn't do it with a extended pole and just pulling on it to try to bend it. So that's under extreme pressure. But it didn't break. It sprung back quite a bit. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Thanks again.